Everybody wants to know what happened 80 years ago. It's huge interest, very peaked, not only in this country, but throughout the world.
We put the ground under your feet, the gigantic buildings over your head, and the history in your hands to touch.
It's so rare that you have something new up here. And it's essentially home movies that have never been seen in public before.
It's good to remember that in the face of disaster, we remember that we're all human and that we're all fragile and life is short. And this is a nice memorial to kind of bring everybody back to focus on that. It's a way of bringing folks together.
Imagine keeping a broken piece of metal and a small strip of charred cloth closely guarded like precious family heirlooms for 80 years. So legendary, so iconic is the story of the German rigid airship Hindenburg that people like Susan Davison, whose firefighter grandfather collected tiny scraps of the giant dirigible, cherish the artifacts like gold.
It just seemed fantastical to me to actually be able to hold in my hand something that had such an important part of American history.
It was flying low, and people were waving out the window, and I'm assuming I probably waved back, as kids would do.
Many people in New York and New Jersey saw the Hindenburg flying on May 6, 1937, as she arrived carrying passengers from Germany, because stormy weather delayed her landing at Naval Air Station Lakehurst. Manufactured by Luftschiffbau Zeppelin and used in Germany as a Nazi propaganda tool, the rigid airship was so large it barely squeezed inside Lakehurst's gargantuan Hangar 1, with only inches to spare.
The Hindenburg was 804 feet, the size of 3 football fields approximately, and it was about 15 stories high.
Carl Jablonski is president of the Navy Lakehurst Historical Society, whose members are among the world's leading experts on the Hindenburg.
The Hindenburg was to Germany what the Queen Mary was to Great Britain, what the Normandy was to France. It was symbolic of the government's commitment to dominate commerce on the high seas, in this case over the high seas.
With her ability to cross the Atlantic about twice as fast as a steamship, the Hindenburg was popular among businessmen and celebrities who could afford luxury travel. German crews served fine food and wine. On board for some trips, a baby grand piano made of aluminum to keep it light, and perhaps most surprising, a pressurized smoking room on a dirigible that was filled with 7 million cubic feet of highly flammable hydrogen.
Before you boarded, you surrendered all your smoking materials to the security people. When you wanted to go to the smoking room, the maitre d' would present you with your cigar, cigarette, pipes, and he would have the only lighter available to light your smoking material.
After 10 successful trips between Germany and Lakehurst and others to and from Brazil, the Hindenburg's first trip to the Naval Air Station in 1937 would quickly end in tragedy.
There was a mushroom of flame from the tail of the ship. The tail section crashed down in 34 seconds. This gigantic Leviathan went from floating 175 feet in the air to being a smoking wreckage on the ground.
Among the crowd that had come to see the giant airship land were several film crews and a radio reporter whose eyewitness account remains legendary in broadcasting history.
And all the folks between it, this is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. It's smoke and it's flames now. Oh, the humanity.
From this inferno, it seems impossible that anyone escaped. Indeed, 35 people on board died, as well as one person on the ground. But of the 97 passengers and crew, 62 survived. thanks in part to the heroism of Navy sailors and the civilian ground crew, seen here running towards the raging fire to help. Just before the 50th anniversary of the crash, eyewitnesses recalled the gruesome scene.
The horror of the burns with their clothes completely burned off, their skin hanging in shreds, their feet in charcoal, their hands, and walking around dazed.
I saw a number of people jump, and I'm sure some of those people were killed because at the time they did jump, it was high.
There was some speculation about sabotage, but investigators later concluded an electrostatic discharge ignited a small hydrogen leak near the tail. While the disaster crushed the future of commercial lighter-than-air travel, and 80 years later, only one person from that fateful flight is still alive, the public's fascination with the Hindenburg story remains strong.
The Hindenburg story is more popular than ever. One of the benefits of the internet is that it has made the basic core facts of the story available to more people than ever before.
After receiving special clearance to come on what is now Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, every month small groups of pre-registered visitors from around the world take information-packed free tours and learn about naval aviation history firsthand.
As each gas cell.
The tour starts outside at this windy former landing field by the memorial marking the spot where the control car of the Hindenburg came down. Next comes a chance to go inside the huge historic Hangar 1 to see the airship museum that's packed with all kinds of authentic Hindenburg artifacts.
We have spoons, knives, forks, wine and water goblets, pieces of mail, a piece of the girder, which is pretty large.
Being inside the hangar provides visitors a tangible sense of the Hindenburg's enormous size and a chance to view thousands of artifacts representing all branches of the military.
I thought the tour was magnificent. I got an insight of what it must have been like at the time that it happened and how tragic it was. I want to come back again. It was that good.
Members of the Historical Society recently were stunned when they received a priceless new donation for their massive collection. Film footage shot on a Hindenburg flight to Germany in 1936 by passenger Josephine Fernanding, capturing typical airship scenes and now haunting images of Captain Ernst Lehmann, who would die less than a year later of injuries from the Hindenburg crash. It's a rare new glimpse into life aboard the airship, whose memory remains shrouded in mystery and intrigue.
We thought it was something amazing that something like this could be hidden for so long, and suddenly it's making a reappearance. So much of the history of the airships, the films that were taken on board have vanished. And just this one small little snippet has suddenly reappeared, and it's just something that we were thrilled to obtain.
Every year, a poignant memorial service is held at the site of the Hindenburg crash to honor the lives lost and the heroism of those who ran towards danger to help rescue so many strangers from the burning wreckage.
Only 35 people lost their lives, which is pretty slim considering that there was over 90 passengers on board. They owe their lives to the sailors that went into the flames that day.
Today, the Lakehurst side of this joint military base is focused on the future of aviation innovation. Still, here through the work of the dedicated volunteers of the Navy Lakehurst Historical Society, the memory of one of the world's most famous disasters lives on.
The Hindenburg story will never go away. Lakehurst is known as the airship capital of the world not only for the Navy airships, but what happened with the Hindenburg. It put Lakehurst on the map.